Imagine this. A critical flaw is found in a super popular software tool, but here's the kicker. Attackers are already using it. When a threat gets that big, the US government has to step in, and fast. So today, we're going to unpack a wild story about a zero-day attack, a race against the clock, and what it all tells us about our digital world.
And look, make no mistake, this isn't some minor bug. CISA is the country's top cyber defense agency. When they start using phrases like significant risks to the federal enterprise, that's not just a friendly heads up, that's a 5-alarm fire. It means the threat is real, it's active, and it's already knocking on the door.
So, where do we even begin with this? Well, we start with the emergency response itself. CISA's directive is our first big clue, and it tells us just how serious this Gogs vulnerability really is.
The order itself is super direct. CISA pointed to one specific flaw. You can see the official name there, CVE 2025-8110, and laid down the law. Patch it now. And that deadline is the real tell, February 2nd, 2026. Giving federal agencies just a few weeks is basically light speed in government time. It screams urgency.
And this wasn't an order for just one or two small offices. We're talking about all federal civilian executive branch agencies. Think about the heavy hitters on this list: the Department of Energy, Justice, Homeland Security, the Department of State. You get the picture. The flaw had the potential to ripple across the entire non-military side of the U.S. government.
Okay, so CISA drops this emergency order, but why? To really get the urgency here, we have to pop the hood and look at the vulnerability itself. What in the world is this Gogs flaw that got the entire federal government scrambling?
First things first, what even is Gogs? Well, in simple terms, it's a tool that lets organizations host their own code collaboration service, kind of like a do-it-yourself GitHub or GitLab that you run on your own servers. And because it's often open to the internet so teams can work remotely, its security is absolutely critical.
Now, the flaw itself, oh, it's a big one. It's what we in the biz call a remote code execution vulnerability, or RCE for short. This is pretty much the worst-case scenario. It means an attacker sitting anywhere in the world could potentially run any code they want on your server. It's literally like handing a total stranger the keys to your entire building.
So how does this attack actually work? It's actually pretty clever. First, the attacker creates a new code repository, but inside they hide a little trap, a shortcut that points to a really important system file. Then they use a normal Gogs feature to send data through that malicious shortcut, which lets them overwrite that sensitive file. And once that file is changed, boom, they can trick the server into running any command they want.
And here's the really terrifying part. This wasn't just a theoretical problem. Hackers were already using this flaw out in the wild. Let's walk through the timeline, because it shows you how this zero-day attack gave the bad guys a massive head start.
You hear this term, zero-day, thrown around a lot. What does it actually mean? Well, it's pretty much what it sounds like. It means the good guys, the software developers, had exactly 0 days' notice to fix the problem before it was found and weaponized by attackers. It's the ultimate cybersecurity nightmare. This timeline really tells the whole story. The flaw gets reported way back in July. But look at this. By November 1st, a whole wave of attacks is already underway. That's more than 2 months before a patch was even ready. So when CISA issued its order on January 12th, they weren't just being cautious. They were trying to slam shut a window that attackers have been climbing through for months.
Just to give you an idea of the scale we're talking about here, researchers initially found about 1,400 GGOX servers just sitting out there, connected to the open internet. Every single one of them was a potential sitting duck for this zero-day attack.
Now this is where it gets really sobering. Even after the vulnerability was public, 1,250 of those servers were still exposed. But here's the kicker. Researchers found evidence that over 700 of them were already compromised. So let's be clear. This wasn't a what-if scenario. This was a widespread, successful attack that was already happening.
So, with an active threat in the wild and a federal mandate breathing down everyone's necks, what are the actual steps you can take to protect yourself? Let's get into the practical advice for anyone out there running a Gogs server. Thankfully, the Gogs team laid out a clear 3-step playbook. First, and this is the big one, turn off open registration. Don't let random attackers just create an account on your system. Second, lock down access to the server itself. Put it behind a VPN or create a list of trusted addresses that are the only ones allowed to connect. And finally, you have to go hunting. Assume the worst and actively look for signs that you've already been hit.
And all of this brings us to the fundamental question, doesn't it?
The patch is out there. The government has sounded the alarm, and yet hundreds of servers are still vulnerable. It really forces you to wonder, is the biggest problem in cybersecurity writing the code for a fix, or is it the messy, human process of actually getting people to install it? That's the real challenge.